clients where you're coaching HR professionals, have they ever encountered a situation where they've battled, say they're on board with agile HR practices and they really want to drive agility in the organizations, but have they encountered like roadblocks with maybe C-suite executives that are not necessarily on board? And give us some examples of that and how you've managed to coach them around it.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the bottleneck lies. It starts there. And it's no surprise, not for anybody. And I also say it's natural, right? Because when we as coaches are also invited to do an enterprise transformations, we are like, our teams have got to change, our organizations have got to change, but it's not us at the top. We just don't have to change. And that's not really true at all. So yes, I have been encountering a lot of that in almost all my transformations to start with. No matter if the transformation for me has started from HR or the IT departments, you will hit the C-suite resistance button everywhere. My sincere approach to do that is to co-create. And that's a magic pill that works. But yes, you do get a question, oh, I cannot co-create with the rest of the 20,000 people. Nah, you're not saying that, because your change has got to start small and then it has to explode out, right? And you want to figure out what that radius of change is going to be. So you've got to co-create with the people impacted by the change so that they become your allies, or as I say, they are your early adopters, right? So that's one silver bullet approach that I generally would use. Another thing I would definitely want people to understand is that we're all people. Now, let's not forget that we as people go to an organization. We do not change as human beings. So our thinking of what social change is applies exactly the same to organizational change, which means if I'm resisting a change in my personal life, I might even resist the change in a professional life. But we forget, we say, oh, that team is resisting to this change and those leaders are resistant. Guess what? Sometimes you have to give people the option to opt out. And I do give the option to, and I'll talk of a specific example in this case, and that'll probably give you more insights. One of the HR departments in one of my transformations, and the head of HR kind of said, nah, we don't need to change because Agile doesn't mean anything to us. And I was like, no problem, we'll come back to you. Take your time, understand it. Of course, in the organization, we were doing already what's in it for me kind of workshops, right? I ensured that these people in HR and the ones that I could influence are always invited to those kind of workshops, just to be observers in the back, come and see what's happening and figure things out. It took us 8 months. And then the head of HR comes and says, you know what? It kind of makes sense. We probably can take some best practices, and we're okay with the word best practice to start with, though that doesn't apply in today's complex world. Best practice means nothing, it's emerging practices. But I think it's a great start. You've got your foot in the door. You've got a person saying yes to change. You're already cutting off a lot of resistance, because if I had to just keep pushing that change to those people, you're just going to hit a brick wall and you're not going to move forward. So and I'll be happy to share that link for the conversation. This is a conversation from the head of HR in a bank and the head of business and operations. And they decided to do this whole journey of coming together and co-creating change together. But before that, yes, they were wondering, the head of HR, in fact, himself said that even during the conversation. He was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to this workshop. I'm not sure what value this is going to have. And he goes to the workshop, and it's a scaled agile workshop. It's a 2-day workshop. It's a really techie workshop. And he was like, at the end of the workshop, the only thing he realized after that is like, okay, the Agile Manifesto resonates with him now. And he feels that the rest of the organization is the customer. They want to create products together. The business should be considered a friend. The rest of the organization is a friend. So let's sit down, let's have a talk. And I think they've been now on this amazing journey for 2 years, co-creating everything with their, the rest of the organization. Believe it or not, they're doing OKRs together, they're doing roles together, they're kind of doing away with designations because they don't see how that makes sense in having a designation. So if you as an employee is hired, you're like, I have a designation and that has this JD, but when I go and work for the business, it's a role. And what the hell does that mean? It's different. They are kind of eliminating that too. So they're working on a lot of things together between business and HR. Some of these HR people now also sitting with the business. Like we said, go see how the business works, see what value you can add because they are your customer. How do you co-create the rest of that journey to them? And they all had nice things to say about each other to each other, which is amazing.